All right, guys, welcome to Next Level by Association and everything Next Level. And I get to meet so many cool people throughout the week and throughout the month and throughout the year, and I'm never at a loss for excitement or enthusiasm when somebody makes an introduction for me. And I'm up here spending some time in San Luis Obispo area, and Kasim Osgood, who's a member of Next Level by Association, says, "Hey, Bob, you need to meet John." And I said, "Okay." And he said, here's where he's at. He's at the Pit, which is a martial arts studio in Rio Grande. And I said, "Oh, okay, cool." And so a couple of days later, I'm just going to go by the Pit and walk in and introduce myself to John. And Flo and I went in and spent some time, and we got to spend some really good time just getting to know John. And so John, man, thanks for being on the show, and thanks for making that time for us to just kind of hang out and spend some time together.
Oh, thanks for coming, and thanks for having me.
Absolutely. John, you have had quite a background, from having this martial arts studio, having some champion fighters that you've worked with, to personal relationships with a lot of key people in the personal development, but also from that background that you had of growing up in Hawaii, and kind of talking about, when you were sharing about, that was constantly a constant fight right there in itself. Can you kind of explain a little bit about that?
Yeah, Hawaii is a very rough place. It's a rough state. It's a rough culture, and I love the culture. It's my home, but it's a rough culture, And back in the late '60s, early '70s. It was a different level of tough back then, a different level. I mean, I think in our whole country, but in Hawaii especially. And there was not only tough, but there wasn't a great fondness for, blonde-haired kids, white kids, they call us haoles, usually fucking haoles. But so it was a rough place. And I could have, it's all, life's about choices, even when you're a kid, and I could have chosen to not be tough and just kind of, I don't know, go along with whatever people told me, and bowed down and averted my gaze, and, been scared all the time. And I could have done that, like a lot of the haoles that grew up there. But for some reason, I wanted to be the fighter guy. I don't know why that came into me, but maybe out of trying to preserve myself, self-preservation. So I started training martial arts at a young age. 10 years old, 9 or 10 years old, and I looked it up myself. Went looking the yellow pages, found a gym. Martial arts school, and I went down, caught the bus, 2 buses. I had to transfer, and I walked in, and I just said, boom. The second I walked in, I knew I was home. I knew I would never leave that, and I never did. That was 1970, I think, and I've been doing it every single day since. And it changed me. A lot of it had to do with the fact that my martial arts instructor wasn't your typical Miyagi. He was a little more like Cobra Kai guy. I mean, he was a ex-con who did a lot of bad things on the side. I mean, he ended up going back to jail even when I was training with him a couple times. But he made me tough. He made me tough. And because of him, I'm where I am today. I don't know if that's a good thing or a bad thing, but it's a thing, whatever it is. And so I owe wherever I am right now, a lot of it goes, probably the lion's share goes to him.
Wow.
So it turned me into a fighter, not a beta.
Mm-hmm. Can you explain that? Because when we talked that night, you kind of brought that up, but explain that, because I think a lot of people don't understand the difference between those two.
I think when you think alpha male, you think of a guy that's going around bragging and trying to be a bully and just be an obnoxious, douchebag. But an alpha alpha males are the ones that, protect the rest. They're the ones that defend the rest. They're the ones that don't avert their gaze. They're the ones that don't back down. They're the ones that don't ever start fights, but always finish them. They're the ones that are the first ones that are going to run to help someone, but they're never going to pick a fight. So the alpha, it's misunderstood because beta males, of course, they don't like, they're jealous of alphas, and they can't be alphas, a lot of them. Some can, but the fact that most of them can't, alpha males are bullies. Oh, they're this. Oh, big shot. They like to mock them in their little cowardly beta selves, and that's the way they can feel better about themselves. They go, yeah, I don't want to be tough. Those bullies, those guys are destroying the world. Oh, they're terrible. Because they can't be us. So they're jealous. So they try to put a bad twist on what an alpha male is. But an alpha male are the people that are going to protect you and your families. You know what I mean? Yeah. They're the ones that are going to run in and protect, whether they're first responders, military, which they are, or just a guy in the street that sees something and he's going to run and protect it. Those are the alphas. The betas are the ones that are like, honey, oh, what's happening there? Oh, you protect me. Those are the betas. And unfortunately, in this day and age, they're the majority right now. And it's sad, but it's true. The betas are the majority. Oh, yeah, don't want a wall. Hey, make sure my door's locked, please. Oh, yeah, terrible. Oh, climate change. Hey, let's book that flight to Europe. To me, that's a beta male.
Can someone become an alpha male if they're not already? Is that something that can be developed, or is that something that you believe is innate?
Man, that's a tough one, but I think you can. I think you can go from a beta to an alpha. You might even be able to go from an alpha to beta. I don't know. I don't know if it's fluid or not, like the genders are now. I don't know if that's a fluid thing, or I'm almost always around alphas. So, but I always hear and I see betas out there on the, social media, or even, walking down the street, but I don't know. I haven't seen too many betas turn into alphas, but I think if you catch them young enough, that's why it's so important for kids to do martial arts, because I think that could make the difference between being a beta or an alpha. I mean, betas are, there's no real use for betas in this country, except if you go to jail, right? And then you want a beta as a cellmate, obviously, because we want someone to do our pedicures and massages and other things. But other than that, I don't really see a good purpose where God put betas on this planet, but for some reason he did. So I don't know.
Huh. So do you think you were born an alpha?
No.
You were created.
I think I don't think you're born. I guess you could have genetic inclination, genetic leanings. I think I had the genetic leanings to be an alpha because my dad was a World War II vet. He was in the infantry, he was a tough guy. But I think, the way you grow up can help decide if you're going to become an alpha or beta. The people you look up to when you're growing up could have a lot to do with it. Maybe your parents have a lot to do with it. But I think I was the clay that was molded by, my father, who was a really tough guy, but he wasn't outwardly tough like my martial arts instructor, who pounded me into being a tougher guy and being an alpha. So I think I was created an alpha. And I think if I didn't have my martial arts instructor, I think I could have been on the fence, and I could have even turned into a beta male. And beta male, that would be a scary thing, because I don't know what goes through a beta male's head, but I don't think it's good.
I love the frankness that you speak with. And I think that's one of the things I was really drawn to. And I think that was one of the things that Kasim knew that I would really be drawn to, because I'm kind of bold in a lot of things I say, and I'm not always politically correct, which I pride myself in not being always politically correct because of today's climate. But at the same time, I think that, as I heard your story, and I asked you one of the toughest things that you went through, and you said growing up and having to fight. And so, but in some ways, it sounds like having to fight is what allowed you to develop into the person you are today. Correct?
Yeah. It could have been toned down a little, and I could still have been a beta alpha male. I wish I didn't have to fight all the time, because it took a lot of, good times away from me. And I still could have come out an alpha. So, I mean, it's kind of, it's really good that I did, but I wish it could have been pulled back a little and, just been less. It was a little much, I mean.
But when you grew up in Hawaii, you kind of were on your own at a very early age and kind of had to fend for yourself and kind of figure it out. Can you kind of talk about that?
Yeah, I mean, my parents were great parents, but I mean, for whatever reason, maybe it was the time, maybe it was me, maybe it was them divorcing when I was younger. Like I said, I have nothing but great memories of my parents. They're both dead, but I had to get out there. I'm the one that had to fight at school. I'm the one that caught the bus to the gym every day. I never got rides. I'm the one that had to decide when someone was looking me up and down if I was going to engage or if I was going to avert my gaze and walk away like a beta bitch. So I decided that early that I wasn't going to be that guy. And I don't know how that came into me and molded me so much, but it did. So, I thank God that I did come out okay, because that alpha could have, it could have bit me in the ass. I mean, I could have got really severely hurt. I could have ended up, locked up or something like that, but it never did. I was lucky, and God was looking over me, and but it did make me tougher. So I think I was molded into it. Basically, I think I had the leanings to be an alpha, being a Hackleman, and my dad being who he is. And then boom, being thrown in with my instructor, Walter Godin, it cinched the deal. So I was molded into an alpha, and I thank God every day that I was, and that I continue to be one, because I don't know what I would do if I was a beta. I look at them and I feel, I feel like they're pathetic, and I feel like they're sad, and I feel sorry for them for being betas. And there's so many of them right now. And I just thank God that I'm not one of them.
There's the first time I heard about you, particularly you and personally, was because someone shared a picture with me of you standing on the roof of your gym with a gun, right?
Yeah. Well, the
background of that.
Yeah, I was up there with a gun, but the main pictures, we were in the front of the gym with guns, and then we had a couple of my students stayed on top, and they were watching over our gym during whatever was a peaceful protest, which I love peaceful protests, but 30% of all these peaceful protests in the past year have turned violent. 30%, that's a high number. Would you do anything if there's a 30% chance of it turning bad? Probably not. But these protesters don't mind doing that, even though 30% of them are turning violent. I was like, I wouldn't get in my car and drive if I had a 30% chance of getting into an accident. I would fucking walk. I wouldn't get on a plane if there was a 30% chance of crashing. I wouldn't. But for some reason, these protesters, I mean, they can't be that stupid. They must know 30% of them are turning violent, but they're still doing it. So, I was preparing for that, and I'm glad I did. It didn't turn into a violent protest, and we got a lot of backlash for it. But at the end of the day, we got more good backlash than bad backlash. Can you have good backlash, or does the word backlash mean it's bad? I don't know. But either way, we had a lot of good feedback because of it. And I'm glad we did what we did. And being called a racist, it's that cancel culture that betas love to do because they hate themselves and they hate their racism. So they throw it out there at people like me because it makes them feel superior, but they're not. But when they threw it out there that we were white nationalists and white supremacists, they didn't, I don't think they looked at the picture very well, because out of, I think, 7 pictures of 7 people between the bottom and the top on the roof, and the only 2 of them were actually white. The rest of them were people of color. And nobody took the time to realize that when they started calling me a white nationalist and the white supremacist on the roof. The main guy on the roof with a picture was a very, very, very dark-skinned Mexican. And he was amused because he's never been called white anything before. And now he's being called a white supremacist. And he thought it was the funniest thing in the world. I thought it was funny, but it was pathetic at the same time.
Mm-hmm. What do you think it is that makes people put labels like that on? Do you think they're afraid? Do you think that they are insecure about themselves? What do you think from your perspective? I mean, everyone has a different perspective.
Yeah, I think the typical, I'm not going to put a political party on it, even though I'm thinking one. But the betas they hate everybody because they hate themselves. They're weak and soft and entitled and they just hate themselves. They're the kind of people that, like when they're kids, they start beating up their brother. Then when the parent comes in the room, they start crying, go, "Oh, Johnny beat me up." That's the kind of people they are. They hate minorities because they're inbred. It's ingrained in them to be racist because they feel they have to be superior because they're so inferior. A beta male is so inferior. Of course, he's not going to he's going to be intimidated by, the black man is this and the black man is that. They're intimidated. So they go, "Yeah, you're such a racist." Yeah. And I think it's just ingrained in them to hate everybody. And they're so jealous of us alpha males that jealousy breeds, contempt, and you just see it. When there's a bunch of them, then all of a sudden there's a group of terrible, angry, jealous, vindictive, racist people. And it comes out in the ugliest ways, So I don't know. I try to like everybody, and some people are in the middle, and it's like there's no middle right now. There's no middle, and I want to like these people, but how do you like a beta male? I mean, that's crazy. It's like a douchebag person, and you go, well, try to like them. How do you like someone so just pathetic? I don't know. I try though. I try, but it's hard, right? I mean, help me out here.
I think it's great. I mean, again, I just love the frankness, and I love, what you look. There's a lot of people that feel the way you do, but they don't say it, and there's a lot of people that may want to say it, but they don't, and so. I'm not in agreement with everything of any one person, but I'm in agreement with the things that I believe and the things that I want and the things that I'm pursuing. So what I'm pursuing is always truth. And what I'm pursuing is what's your truth versus my truth and anybody else's truth. That's irrelevant. Bottom line is what's truth. And then how do we live according to that? Right.
Yeah.
You grew up in a climate that you had to fight. You grew up in a climate where you had to forge your own way. and it's led you to this point. You had some great mentors, like you talked about your martial arts instructor, but he also set some examples of things you don't want to do and things that you don't want to be. And I think the wisdom I think that I'm hearing from you is the fact that you could decipher what it is that you took from some people and you left from others.
Yeah, and I don't think the two are, you know, exclusive. You know, like I don't think being a badass or being an alpha male means you're more violent at all. In fact, the opposite. If you look at mass shooters, you know, they're, you know, just about all of them are betas. They're betas. They were bullied. You know, they're bullied and they're betas. They never turned into alphas. They turned into mass shooters. You know, and you don't, to be a tough guy doesn't mean you have to be a tough guy. Like to be a tough guy, right? You're a tough person doesn't mean you have to be a badass or act like a tough guy. And we're having black belt ceremonies right now with Glover Teixeira, who's the #1 light heavyweight in the UFC in the whole world. And then there's about 4 of his students that are top level MMA fighters, a bunch of my guys who are top level MMA fighters. And there was a guy that wasn't a fighter, and he said, he's a martial artist, he's one of my guys, but he just said, man, I just can't believe just how calm and relaxed all these guys are. And, you know, there's nobody, you know, nobody getting rowdy, nobody being, you know, aggressive. They just seem to be having such a good time. And, you know, that's what, you know, martial arts and being, you know, tough is all about. You don't have to act tough. You don't have to be the tough guy. There's no better time than being at a UFC fight backstage. You'll never feel that comfortable. You know, when you're a bunch of alpha males or beta males, they're always like, there's just always uneasiness because they're so insecure that they have to, you know, they'll start a fight or they'll start talking like this. But when you're with a bunch of true alpha males, they're just fun and goofy, and they have, you know, they don't have to put on, you know, they don't have to put on that mask of toughness because it comes from the inside.
Yeah. I find that to be very true. The people that are puffing up the most are typically the people that, my brother, who was 6'5", and 240 pounds when he was in high school, he told me growing up, he was 10 years older than me, and he used to tell me all the time, he goes, never be afraid of the person that's boistering them, pushing themselves up and bolstering. Always be afraid of the quiet one. He goes, that's the one, because that's the one that can take you. And you know, I grew up in El Monte, so it was primarily Hispanic, and I'm blonde hair, blue eye, blonde hair, green eye, did not fit in well. And so I was beat up a lot growing up. I didn't have that other side of me that taught me how to fight. It taught me how to speak eloquently and get myself out of situations, but not necessarily how to fight myself out of situations. But as I'm around, you know, when I walked into your office that night, I'm expecting this, you know, really tough, mean, you know, guy, because, you know, he owns a martial arts studio and he owns the Pit, which is, you know, Chuck Liddell and all these great UFC fighters have come through there and fought. And I'm like, oh my gosh. And yeah, you were this really quiet, nice, kind, gentle person. But yet on the inside, I could tell this is somebody that knows who he is and is not going to back down from who he is no matter what. And I really appreciated that and respected that about you. You know, when you brought some of the best fighters, like I mentioned Chuck Liddell, but Kasim introduced me to Chuck, and then he introduced me to you. You know, what do you think has been the biggest caveat between a good fighter and a great fighter in martial arts?
I don't know. Martial arts is there's you know, I think if you're talking about MMA sport,
correct,
then that's one thing, and there's so many things. You have to be skilled at so many things, but number one, you have to have the heart. You have to have that. And some fighters want to be fighters, but they don't love to fight. And that's a big subgroup right there. Guys that want to be fighters, they always have a fight coming up. They're always on social media. Yeah, as soon as my wrist heals up, I'm going to start training again. As soon as my ankle heals up, I'm going to start training again because I'm a fighter. I'm going to go all the way. I'm going to make it to the UFC. Oh, when as soon as my pinky toe heals up, I'm going to start training again. First of all, I'm going to sidetrack for a second. If it's a digit, there's only one digit that counts on your body, and that's the one between your legs. All your other digits, if you're hurting a digit, you should still be training. It's just a fucking digit. The only digit you got to worry about is that one. Anyway, sorry about that. That had nothing to do with what I'm talking about.
I get it.
Anyway, so there's that guy, right? And then there's the guy like Chuck and Glover and Court McGee and my guy Big Brother and Isaiah and Tim Kennedy. They don't ever talk about I'm a badass. They just like laugh and joke. They never say I'm a fighter. I'm a UFC fighter. Hey, you wouldn't even know Glover was a fighter, ever. You'd never know if it's a fighter unless you've seen him fight. So there's that guy that loves to fight. Glover, Chuck, they love to fight. They don't care where, for how much, for this, for that. They just want to fight. Then there's the guy, like I said, that wants to be a fighter. And you can tell the difference the second they get punched in the face. The second they get punched in the face, you can say, oh shit, that guy is not really a fighter. What's he doing in there? But he'll never make it to the UFC. But at the amateur level, you can tell the guy that's not going to go there. And then the guy that might. Now, the guy that has the heart and wants to be a fighter, not just who wants to fight, not just be a fighter, he might not have all the skills. He might not have the speed. He might not have a good chin. There's so many other factors that come in for that really tough, hardcore guy that's an alpha all the way through, but he just might not have the speed or the stamina. Some people just aren't ever going to get that. No matter how much they work at it, they're never going to make it to the top level, right? So those people are still alphas. They're still martial artists. They're still tough as nails. They'll still fight and to defend their family, but they're just not cut out to be in the sport fighting realm. So I have my martial artists here, and then I have my sport fighters here, and I love them both the same. They're both just as alpha as the other, but some are made to be the athlete. I mean, not everybody's going to be a sprinter. I mean, not everybody's going to be a swimmer. Not everybody's going to be an MMA fighter either. So that's how I kind of decipher the two. And if their passion is to be a fighter, I'm going to help them all I can. And I'll be there for them. And if they might make it, they might not. It depends on the X factors. Like Glover has the X factor. Chuck had the X factor. Some of my fighters, made it to AA, instead of pro or instead of majors, they made it to AA, and they're really good there. And maybe they won't go any further. I'm sure there's a lot of baseball players that make it to the AA, but then don't make it to the majors. They're still good. They still try their best. They're just not going to make it to that level. And that's how I see my fighters.
Mm-hmm. You've brought in a lot of people through your gym, like you say, on both levels that are just there to learn, and then those that are there to use it as a profession.
Yeah.
And you mentioned Chuck Liddell. You mentioned some of these other guys. In your opinion, what do you think that their message is in their fights? What do you think their message is to the world?
I think their message is world peace, or maybe not. It could be just I'm the baddest dude out there. I'm the best fighter. I think their message is showing their not just skill, it's showing who they are, like expressing themselves. That would be it, expressing themselves.
Yeah.
Because Glover has a different way of expressing himself than Chuck did, right? Tim Kennedy has a different one than, say, Big Brother, or, then I think they're expressing themselves and through their art, just like an actor or a painter or anything. These guys are just a different art form.
Self-expression. That's
Yeah.
interesting.
I mean, if you think about it, you look at the fighters and they're all different, right?
Yeah.
But all the same.
Yeah. You know, you started your gym. When did you start it?
1985, in the backyard
85,
of my house.
and you've been through the ups and downs, the highs, the lows, the great economies, you know, slower economies, everything else. What do you think has been the key to your success in being able to weather the times, but also to bring in quality fighters and quality people into your team?
I think honestly, um, it's been, I don't even know what this means. God-given luck. I think it's because God's looking out for me, and I think it's luck. And I've had people that have come in and, you know, help me, and I'm not really that smart. And so, you know, like my wife running the the gym, and then you know, guys like Chuck coming in and guys like Glover coming in and being nice enough to, you know, give me props and get my name more out there. Lucky enough for people like, you know, Joe Rogan to, you know, mention my name here and there on his show. And then, you know, just the I don't know, kindness of the people, you know, just have come into my gym and supported me and what I do. It's not really that. I mean, I can't put a finger on one thing. I think it's just like I said. God, that's if I had one thing to say is God-given luck. That's it. And it's just, you know. And I started off in my backyard for the first from '85 to 2001. I was in my backyard. I was, you know, I was doing it on the side. You know, I'm a registered nurse working full-time graveyard shift. And I'm training guys in my backyard. And next thing I know, you know, I got world champions, I got this, I got that in my backyard, but I'm still working the graveyard shift, you know, as a registered nurse. And can you hold one sec?
Yeah.
No. Babe, I'm talking to Bob. We're doing like a podcast. Do you need some? Probably, yeah, probably not. Okay. Okay, while I'm doing this thing right now, Yellow Blake. Okay. Okay, love you. Okay, okay. Can you wait one sec?
Yeah.
Blake. Blake. Call your mom right now. She needs you to do something. Call her.
This is the magic of being a fly on the wall.
Sorry about that.
Okay, we're good.
Yeah, I get bossed around too. Oh my God. That wasn't Chuck. That wasn't Glover. That wasn't Dana White or anything. That was my wife bossing me around.
Hey, you know, there's worse people to be bossed around by than the people that we're married to, right?
Yeah.
So you know, John, I want to be respectful of your time, and we're already a couple minutes over, but I want to wrap up with this. You know, I think that I love the fact that you talked about your relationship with Heather, your wife, and you know, you talk with such respect for her and admiration. It flies in the opposition of what most people think a tough guy is. And yet when we sat down there, your humbleness about your relationship, your vulnerability about, you know, some of the things that happened to you in your past and some of the mistakes you've made, just like we all have. I was really respectful of that, and I was in awe of that because, like I said, it flies opposite of what most people think a tough guy is. Let's talk about this relationship with Heather, because obviously she's made a huge, profound impact in your life, and I'm sure you have as well. But how did she make such an impact in your life?
I'll never know the answer to that. I can't. It just happened, you know, because it's never happened before with anyone else. I just knew I couldn't be without her. but then like if I couldn't be without her, and then like you know, some girl in Vegas like, you know, was coming on to me, and you know, I could have easily, you know, done something, taken her to the room. Heather's back home, she'll never know. So I could have been, you know, but it wasn't ever like that. So it's like once she came in, not only did I think logically, you know, I don't want to ever do anything to blow this. I also just all of a sudden everything else shut down exactly that at that time. It's like everything on the outside shut down. It'd be like, you know, it's I guess it'd be like, you know, like since I'm straight, it'd be like if a guy started hitting on me, you know, he could be the nicest guy in the world, you know, but it won't click and nothing clicks. Where the other people I've been with, you know, even though I want to be loyal and stuff, when somebody else was, you know, hitting on me or I saw somebody, that clicked and I would follow it, you know. And with Heather, you know, I could say I'm loyal, but it's not even really being loyal because there's like if somebody talks to me, I don't even see that kind of, you know, I don't even see any kind of attraction. Yeah, I notice if someone's not ugly, but I don't even think of like, wow, I've never thought that once since I've been with Heather. I've never thought, wow, she's hot. I've never thought that. And I don't know. It's just Heather. Everything is Heather. Like she's the ice cream now. She's the Haagen-Dazs. I used to always tell everyone, you man, I don't care how much you like your wife or you think she's great. You're going to eat the same thing every day the rest of your life. That's just stupid. We're not made to do that. But now I'm thinking, yeah, that's the only ice cream I want is Haagen-Dazs from the rest of my life. I might want a different flavor here and there. Yeah, maybe I want her on top. Maybe I want her on the bottom. Yeah, I want maybe a different flavor, but I only want Haagen-Dazs. And Heather is my Haagen-Dazs. And that's the last ice cream I ever want to eat.
Wow.
I don't know why. I just never want to be that person. And now when I look back at it, it's easy to be judgmental now because I was like that. But when I look at my fighters and I tell them, you know, if you cheat on your wife, you're off the team. You know, I tell my students, if you cheat on your wife, you're a terrible person. You're a scumbag. You know, I don't want to train you anymore. But it's easy now to say
that with me. I remember that night when you said that, I was like, really? And you're like, yes.
Yeah. And I you know, it's there now. And I wish somebody told me that when I was younger, because if my instructor told me that when I was younger, I think it would have changed a lot of things. I wouldn't have been such a, you know, a douchey, you know, partner to so many women. You know, I was always that douchebag and thinking I was cool, but I wish somebody had told me it's not cool, it's douchey, and you're a fucking scumbag for doing it. But everybody kind of like encouraged it. You know, my instructor, you know, my peers coming up, everybody was like, I'm not blaming them, you know, but it was never frowned upon. It was encouraged. And I wish it was frowned upon because it is a terrible, terrible thing to do. If you're a woman doing it to your guy or a guy doing it to your woman. So I don't allow that at my gym anymore.
Yeah. So what's the best way for people to get in touch with you or learn more about the pit? I mean, I've been there a few times now, a couple of times, and I've always enjoyed just meeting the people there and meeting the people that you work with and obviously spending that time with you. What's the best way for people to learn about the pit?
I have the pit.tv.
Okay.
That's all I can think of.
Pit.tv. And then you also have a podcast.
Yeah, the Pit Master and the Doc. And we're going to have, we're actually going to be on tonight at 5:00 Eastern Pacific time. And we have Glover on.
Oh, cool.
And it's going to be on the Facebook Live, on my Facebook. We're going to do a Facebook Live and it'll be on the podcast. It's going to be me, the Doc, who's a local orthopedic surgeon, James Casper with a K. And then we have Glover is coming on tonight. He's going to talk about his #1 positioning in the UFC, light heavyweight, and what's next for him and where he started. And well, I'll bring up the alpha thing. I don't know. Yeah. He's so like he will not talk about politics. He will not talk about any of that. He loves, his newest book it's Eckhart
Tolle.
Yeah, his new book, not the Power of Now, but the Power of something, Power of something. But he meditates now, twice a day, and he's just such a mellow guy, and he's like that. It's so easy to be like that most of the time, but it's not easy to be like that in the dressing room before you're going to go fight in front of however many million people, and you're going to fight some guy in a cage who's trying to take your head off.
Right.
That's not easy to be like Zen. And he's like that when he's not training for a fight, when he's training for a fight, when he's in the dressing room, and when he's walking out to the cage. He is just the most mellow, Zen-like person that I've ever met in this business. Chuck was pretty mellow too, but so we're going to talk about a little bit about that, but it'll be at 5 o'clock today.
Great. Pacific time. I'll make sure I wrote that down. I want to be on that. I want to witness that. It'll be fun. But John, I appreciate you. I appreciate the time that you've opened up the door for me to come in and just spend some time with you and learn from you and learn about you. Appreciate you hopping on today. We'll do some more of this. I'd love to learn more about what you've got going on in your life and how I can participate. So thank you, brother.
Come on down.
I appreciate you, man.
Come on down. All right, brother. Thank you.
All right. Have a great day.
Yeah.